At Youngstown Tile Retail Design Center, we're your local leaders in residential flooring and luxury home projects. We have proudly served our customers in the local community for over 70 years. We carry top brands such as Dow Tile, Mapei, Schluter Systems, and many more. At Youngstown Tile Retail Design Center, we want to help bring your renovation ideas to life. For quality service, quality products, best-in-class customer service. Go bold, go local, go Youngstown Tile.
You're watching an amazing podcast from an amazing podcast company.
Hello, Mob Associates. Johnny Chechitelli here with my partner in true crime, Jimmy Naples, coming to you with another edition of Youngstown Mob Talk, shot downtown Youngstown, Ohio. First of all, we want to thank our sponsors. Of course, Youngstown Mob Talk is brought to you by Youngstown Tile for spectacular flooring. Go bold, go local, go Youngstown Tile.
And our other sponsor, Cut and Toast, out there at 160 Lowville Road in Struthers, Ohio. Cut and Toast, you know, they got great cigars. Go out and see the guys out there and they'll hook you up.
Yeah. So thank you to our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do all this this Youngstown Mob content, so we truly appreciate it, and please support our sponsors. So we're almost up to 30,000. We've been hovering under 30,000 in the Facebook Youngstown Mob group.
Yeah. So we need all our mob associates out there. We need you to go on your friends list and invite people to the group that aren't in the group. Invite them, have them come in and join the group, and let's get us to 30,000.
Yeah, let's do a special giveaway too. We'll give, once we hit 30,000, we will pick one of our group members at random, and we'll give you a surprise. So definitely help share it and get us to 30,000, and hopefully somebody wins something cool, a Youngstown Mob artifact.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's been kind of a crazy week. You know, we've just coming out of the show and trying to get all this new stuff that we got going on with all our other shows that we're doing and this on top of it. It's been crazy, man. Yeah,
we're working behind the scenes for you. We got a lot of stuff we're working on. We kind of debuted our Youngstown Mob Tour app during our live show at the Robins, and we've been working on that, hoping to get that out in the next month. So we're hard at work putting like 100 different spots on this Mob Tour app. So it is going to be comprehensive. You're going to want to check it out. Can't wait for you guys to get a good look at that.
And, you know, I know they're all waiting, and I'm sure they're, like me, impatient, you know. But it takes time to make these things, you know. Yeah. It's a lot of manpower, a lot of hours. Even these shows that we do, you know, with the research and things that we do, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort. And, you know, we have other things going on. You have a job that you work. I have a job that I work. We got families and things like that. So, you know, please be patient with us. We're trying to get this stuff to you.
It's going to be well worth the wait, though. This app is really amazing, guys. It has so many cool features to it, so you'll be able to go on your own mob tours. Maybe you'll book us for a tour. We'll see. But it's really going to be worth the wait. Youngstown Mob Tours, that app is coming soon. We'll keep you posted on that. We're working on other stuff. We got the Vice Squad. We just dropped another episode this week, all about Alvin Karpus's train robbery. So pretty much the last great American train heist was in Garrettsville, Ohio, right outside of Youngstown. 1935 by a guy named Alvin Creepy Karpus. And they actually had on the train the payroll for Republic Steel. Yeah. And Alvin Karpus believed that it had the Youngstown Sheet and Tube payroll as well, but unfortunately for him, they actually delivered that a day earlier. So, but he got away with it for years and years. They actually charged two other guys for one of his crimes from the Licavoli gang. That ended up going to prison for years. Were finally pardoned when he admitted to his mail heists. But Creepy Karpus, he was the longest serving prisoner in Alcatraz. He taught Charles Manson how to play guitar. The guy had a crazy who's who. He knew Pretty Boy Floyd and all those guys, and he hated J. Edgar Hoover with a passion. So check out that episode of the Vice Squad, available on our YouTube channel. YouTube.com/Amazing Podcast Company.
So our post of the week is, oh geez, and I lost it. Rich Marinucci. He talked about, for those of you that watch the History Channel, World's Greatest Heist this week. The episode, of course, was on the Denzio brothers and the Laguna Niguel heist.
The United Bank.
Yeah, they went into huge detail on that, talked about some of the things that went on with that. And then, of course, they also covered the heist that they pulled off right after they came back, which is the bank in Lordstown, which if they probably wouldn't have pulled that, they might have got away with Laguna Niguel, right? Yeah. Feds kind of matched the two up and said, geez, this one's very similar to this one. And of course, Phil Christopher talks in the video, he says, he goes, when we went to go to the airport, I think it was him and Charles Mulligan were going to the airport, Charles Mulligan forgot the fake IDs. So they had to use their real IDs, and of course, being criminals, their name's already out there, and law enforcement knows who they are, and that kind of led to them tying everything together.
Yeah, when they pulled the Laguna Niguel heist, they used their MO to get past the old style alarm, which was they would climb up the side of the building and they would spray liquid foam, like liquid styrofoam basically, in the inside the alarm that would prevent it from ringing. Yeah. So when the alarm got tripped, and that would send a signal to the police station, and without that little bell ringing around there, they were able to bypass that alarm. And then they'd go through the roof. They had an MO with how they did things.
Right.
So, it was when Laguna Niguel got robbed, or burglarized, as Emil would say, because he's a big stickler on the difference between robbery and burglary.
Right.
Robbery implies they came into the bank with guns and,
right.
They actually robbed somebody. Emil prefers burglar and burglarized. His story, the Denzio gang pulling off their robberies or their burglaries, that story's been told several times on these FBI file shows.
Yeah.
There's that movie, Finding Steve McQueen,
Yep.
some other things. I just want to tell you a quick story. People ask me all the time how I started getting into this Youngstown mob research.
Right.
It actually came from that heist.
Did it really?
It really, I had general interest in growing up. Jim Trafficant was on the news, and Paul Gaines getting shot and all that was on the news
Right.
when I was in high school, and it was on my radar, of course, as it was probably with every young person in Youngstown at that time. We knew that there was some kind of a presence here, organized crime, and then you hear the legends and the lore. I went to a film school, and we had a teacher one day come in and talked about documentary filmmaking. And at the time, I never even thought about doing a documentary. I just wanted to make a scripted movie, an action movie or a heist movie, whatever. Well, he starts talking about documentary films and how a great reason to do a documentary film is when there's a terrific story there, a cinematic story that's true and that no one else really knows, or that not many people really know. And so I realized when I was in that school that everybody would always talk about what's your favorite movie, and The Godfather comes up and Goodfellas comes up. All these people that said The Godfather and Goodfellas, I asked them, had they ever heard of Youngstown, Ohio? Now, keep in mind, my film school was in Florida, Orlando, Florida. None of them had ever heard of Youngstown, Ohio, people my age. It was just interesting. These kids came from all over the country to go to this school, and they said they liked The Sopranos, they liked the Goodfellas, they liked The Godfather, but they never heard of Youngstown. So I said, okay, great. Maybe I should do a documentary about Youngstown. And that's originally where my movie Youngstown Still Standing morphed into. Years later was that documentary. But I wrote a treatment for it called There's No Place Like Home. And at 19 years old, that's when I started researching. And I started going to libraries and going online and finding as much as I could. The internet was still growing and relatively new at that time, but I was able to find pretty quickly a great article from a newspaper in California called the OC Register, the Orange County Register, which detailed that bank heist, Laguna Niguel, that was their hometown.
Right.
It detailed the 25th anniversary of the Denzio burglary. And it was a really well-written article by a guy named Keith Sharon. And so I kept it and I studied it and I said, wow, okay, these guys were some, top-notch bank burglars, right? Well, I developed this documentary, and years later I made the documentary, but I never forgot about that article. So when I moved to California a few years later, I reached out to the author of that article, Keith Sharon, and I approached him, and I actually took him out to lunch, and I was like 20 years old, couldn't even buy a beer. And I, tried to big time it like I was a big time movie producer. And I offered him, I said, first of all, this is an amazing article you've written, really well done, 6-part article. I said, have you thought about turning it into a movie? And he kind of laughed at me, and he reached under in his bag, he pulled out a screenplay, and he threw it right on the desk. And it was called Hail to the Thief. Great title, I thought. Instead of Hail to the Chief, Hail to the Thief, about the Dinzios trying to steal Richard Nixon's money. So I read this script, and it was really good. And before that, though, in the lunch, Keith tells me that he sold the script to Sony. They optioned it. And then they were going to make it, but they wanted some changes. They wanted him to change Youngstown to New Orleans because New Orleans offered better tax incentives for filming. They wanted to change it from President Nixon to President Smith because they wanted to make it modern day. They didn't want to make it the 1970s to save money. So he said that he made the changes. He did this kind of new draft, and it took all the soul out of the movie. Of course, it took all the Youngstown out of the movie. It took all the real history of being in the 1970s and all that, and Richard Nixon. It took all that out of the story, and the script was flat. So they never made the movie. Now, his deal expires with Sony, and coincidentally, 2 years, 3 years after that, Sony did make a movie very similar called The Bank Job with Jason Statham. Yeah. And if you'll notice, the core of the Dinzio script, the Hail to the Thief, was all about them breaking into the safety deposit boxes. The Bank Job, starring Jason Statham, same exact story, except it's set in London, England. Yeah. And instead of stealing Richard Nixon's money, they're stealing compromised photographs of one of the royals. Yeah. So they probably just ripped off this script. Right. But fast forward to, years later, I kept in touch with Keith Sharon, and I tried to buy the rights to that story back then. I didn't have $10,000 in the bank at 20 years old to just drop on a script. So, unfortunately, I was never able to get the rights, and then somebody else bought the rights, and they kept it and kept it and kept it. But I kept checking back with him, and eventually, somebody made the movie. They finally made it. It was called Finding Steve McQueen. They went through several rewrites. They changed the title for God knows what reason. Yeah. Finding Steve McQueen is a terrible title.
Exactly, yeah.
Terrible title.
I mean, you would, just by the title, you wouldn't even think it had anything to do with the bank robbery or
no,
the Dinzios.
Exactly.
Or any of that, yeah.
So, terrible title for the movie. And it had a good cast in it. If you ever check it out, it's probably available on some streaming services, but it tanked. It didn't do any money at all, which is a shame because it started off as such a good script and such a good story, but then it morphed into this other project. And what it really became was a story about Harry Barber, which was Emil Dinzio's nephew. And it's kind of told through his point of view. Not a great movie, to be honest. Not a great portrayal of the story. But just a fun fact that bank robbery was the first piece of research that got me into this, that got me started on this. So yeah, I'd love to talk to Emil again and, sit down with him. But great post of the week.
If another letter from that school goes to that kid's house, in the fucking oven, you're going to go ahead first.
All right. So this week's mailbag was an item that I was just given this week. Now, I shouldn't reveal who it came from. They wanted to remain confidential, so we'll just call them our confidential source, which is ironic because what they've actually given us says confidential here. And, we'll throw this up on the screen. But you'll see Sheriff Ray T. Davis, Mahoning County, Youngstown, Ohio, confidential, intelligence and information. Now, this is actually pretty cool, guys. What this is from 1969. This is a packet that was clearly distributed amongst the sheriff's department, Mahoning County. This gives 150 names with 150 corresponding mug shots. So this is pretty cool.
You know, it makes me wonder if they could even get away with something like that today.
With what?
With putting something like that out.
I'm sure they have them.
I'm sure they have them internally, but you know, for it to get out to the public, I don't think.
No, yeah. Of course, that's why it's confidential.
Right.
But you know, you've got names and pictures up here, and we'll throw a couple of them up. Well, just right off the bat, since we talked about the Dinzios in our post of the week, look who's in here. We've got several Dinzios. So there's Emil Dinzio. You've got James Dinzio. I see Vince Dinzio, and more. So, you know, really, this was the usual suspects around the Youngstown, Mahoning County area in 1969. You know, some other names on here, of course. You know, Guerreri, Cascarelli, Faseska.
It's interesting none of the Naples were in there.
It is interesting.
Wonder why that might be. Wonder if it was because we own that sheriff. It's possible.
Ray T. Davis. Now, here's some background for you guys. Mahoning County Sheriff Ray T. Davis, he was thought to be a pretty straight arrow for years and years. He was a 4-term sheriff in Mahoning County. He actually came in under former Republican Mayor Charles Henderson, who was out to smash racket rule. Right. Ray Davis started as a secretary under him in his department. So, you know, then eventually he becomes a 4-term Mahoning County Sheriff. Of course, Ray Davis was missing his left hand. He was in the Army, I believe he was in World War II, and in a training accident actually had his hand blown off. Oh, wow. And so he might have had a finger or two, but most of his hand was gone. But like most sheriffs in Mahoning County, he did eventually get busted for, in his case, it was racketeering.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, Sheriff Davis, and coincidentally, it was right after he lost an election. In 1979, he was indicted by a grand jury, federal grand jury. The FBI arrested him for accepting bribes. They called it bribes. They were really kickbacks. And they got him and a deputy under the RICO Act. They actually charged them under the RICO in 1979. And it's kind of a strange case. So he wasn't taking bribes from the mob. He was taking kickbacks from his own deputies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and in a move kind of that they would get trafficking for years later, he actually was making his deputies pay into what he called his flower fund, and they would give him kickbacks that he would use for basically a political slush fund. Yeah, so he was charging his own deputies, asking them for kickbacks. They had to pay back a certain amount of their salaries to him.
That's crazy.
Exactly, or else, he might demote them, he might fire them. He also had his deputies come out and do work for him on his property in Canfield.
That sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar. Mr. Trafficant, the congressman would later do that at his property. But I believe they said that they had to come build a swimming pool for him. All kinds of things, Must be nice to be the sheriff back in the 1960s. But they eventually got him in 1979. So I believe he ran for re-election in 78. He lost. Yarosh becomes the sheriff. Ray Davis actually was a Republican. He lost in the Republican primary. And then by 1979, he was indicted and did go to prison along with a sheriff's deputy named Wallace, who they busted Wallace for taking money, taking bribes from truckers. What he would do is he would kind of give them a pass so they didn't have to go through the weigh stations.
Okay.
He would let them know when the weigh stations were closed, or they would close it for them, whatever he would do, so that they could just take their freight straight through without getting checked.
Right.
So they were paying this guy Wallace for that, and so he got busted. Well, because they were in the same office, the sheriff's deputy office, even though these two crimes weren't connected to each other, the feds actually got him on a RICO.
Interesting.
And so these guys both appealed on the grounds of, hey, I wasn't doing anything with him and he wasn't doing anything with me.
Right.
This should never have been a RICO charge. But, RICO was pretty new at that time, still used, and the feds were able to use it. They said, the appeals court turned them down, and they said that because they were both within the Mahoning County Sheriff's Department, which was considered the enterprise, that they were able to link those two cases. Just goes to show you, the feds will get you if they're trying to get you
They can get nasty.
if they're trying to get you on some charges, they'll work out a way. They're going to get you. So, maybe Emil Denzio's got a case, and when he says the feds framed him, but
Let's be honest here. I mean, how many times have we've talked about some of these cold cases that we have here in Mahoning County, especially of course, my Uncle Joey's one of the big ones, right? Yeah. I've had people tell me that it was the feds that had him killed because they could never indict him on anything, and they got so fed up with trying to indict him that they figured if they just get rid of him, then they'd be able to get rid of the rest of the organization. And look, that's what happened. As soon as Joey fell, everything in Youngstown, and then over the course of the next 10 years, crumbled.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll say this. I don't personally believe the feds had Joey killed, but, people say a lot of things. Some people say Joey was an informant. Some people say the feds killed him. Some people say people say a lot of things, right? We've come to learn that, people say a lot of things. As historians, all we can do is try to find the facts and what's documented and talk to folks, and we do our best. And, we're working on something with your uncle's case, actually. So hopefully to update some stuff in the future on that. But,
I actually reached out to the producers from History Channel. They do History's Greatest Mysteries. Yeah. They just did one on a judge from New York, is Judge Carter, and he was big in Tammany Hall and with Roosevelt and all that. It's good, but they do like a whole bunch of theories, which is kind of like what we have with Joey. Yeah. It's a whole bunch of theories. Yeah. But I'd love to get his, work them.
History's Greatest Mysteries.
If you're work with them and get on there and kind of go over some of the theories, you never know. Some information might turn up.
What are they on, History Channel?
Yeah.
History Channel, if you're watching, and we know that you are, reach out to us. Which, by the way, anybody can reach out to us. If you're just a fan, or you want to share something with us, you want to drop something in the mailbag for us, whatever, reach out to us on Gmail. It's steelvalleysyndicate@gmail.com. Jim, I see you're rocking the Youngstown Mob Talk shirt. Yep. So, of course, we've got our apparel line. Check that out if you want a Mob Talk shirt or any of our shirts we have available for you guys. The Capiche one, people love that one. Yeah. It's steelvalleysyndicate.myshopify.com.
Yeah. And any of you that are local, if you're looking for an extra large one, I got some extra large here in town of the Youngstown Mob Talk and the Steel Valley Syndicate. Just hit me up in the group, and I can drop it off right to your house. $20.
Cool.
$20 special. The whole month of March, all the T-shirts are $20 on the website.
Nice.
So
there you go. Get your shirt before March is over, guys.
Yeah, $20, man. $10 off, and that's as many as you want. So if you order 10 shirts, they're all $20.
And when you get a shirt, take a picture, post, get something. We want to see you in that shirt. We'll post it out there and get good word of mouth for us too. So we appreciate that. If you're watching this video on YouTube, we really do hope you like and subscribe. We're trying to build a base here, get more content. We're working on a lecture series right now. We're putting that together, so we should have some dates to announce pretty soon. We got a huge, big show. Oh my gosh, guys. Wait until you hear what we've got planned for our big show, probably at the end of this year. Yeah. We cannot wait. We're finalizing the details now. If you guys came out to the Robin show, this is like the next evolution of where we're going with these kind of big shows. So, hopefully I can tell you we're working on something in Youngstown. Yep. So, big news to come on that. We can't wait to share it with you.
And it's going to be a little bit different than our Robin show.
Oh yeah, we're learning. We're evolving.
We've heard the people say, hey, we want some more content. We want to see some pictures. We want to see some video, things like that. So we're working on getting that stuff together.
Special guests we got for this one too. Yes. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So that's all in the works, guys. Jim, is there anything else you want to get to in this week?
Not offhand. It's just we've got so much going on. I got episodes to write for the Vice Squad pod. I got to get those done, and you got things that you got going on.
Some future episodes coming out for you guys in the next month or so. By the way, the Vice Squad. That's our other show we do, the Vice Squad podcast. It's produced by Rick Perello, myself, Jim, Vince Guerreri, who's also our host. We've got a whole episode on the Corn Sugar Wars coming up, the Corn Sugar War up in Cleveland between the Leonardos and the Perellos. That's a great episode coming up. We got one coming up on Big Jimmy Munson, who was huge in this area. Was kind of the old gangster who kind of got rubbed out so the new mob could come in. So great episodes coming your way, guys. Stay tuned for that, the Vice Squad pod. Definitely like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing.
Absolutely. And for those of you out there that are Vegas player fans, just stay patient with us. We're trying to get this new podcast studio finished that we got over here at Chauvin Career and Technical Center. We're going to get the students involved with that, and we're going to bring that show back to you, and that's going to be a student-run show. So we get those kids some experience in the field and,
if you guys want to catch
and
up,
bring them on.
If you want to catch up on previous episodes, that's the Vegas Player Podcast with Jimmy Mullador. So Jimmy's a musician from Youngstown, from Briar Hill. He became a huge jazz musician, played with legends like Elvis and Frank Sinatra. He wrote a book called The Vegas Player about, his life and the mob and celebrities and all that. So we turned that into a podcast we do with Jimmy, where we just kind of talk with Jimmy every week. We put it on hiatus for a little bit, but it's coming back. Like Jim just said, we're working on it for you. But check out all the previous episodes to get caught up on our YouTube channel.
And once again, big shout out to our sponsors. Of course, Youngstown Tile. We got to thank them for coming on and being a part of what we do. Yeah. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, Cut and Toast. Without our sponsors, we can't do what we do. They help us with the research, afford to pay, because a lot of this research we got to pay for through the FBI. They just don't give it to you. And there's plenty of guys out there that you can talk to that have done this type of research and spent $20,000, $30,000 doing research.
And shooting the videos, editing the videos, coordinating everything, scheduling everything. I mean, it adds up. So we really appreciate our sponsors, and we're able to bring you guys free content.
Right.
So check it out, and we really appreciate it. Support those guys. Support local businesses in the Mahoning Valley, and big thanks to them. So.
Yeah. So Johnny, until next time. It's been a great another episode of Youngstown Mob Talk.
Yeah.
So everybody out there, keep posting, keep doing what you're doing. We'll see you soon. For Jimmy and Johnny.
And by the way, if you want to know if somebody certain is in this confidential file here of mugshots, just send us an email. We'll send you, if they're in here, we'll send you an email.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.
That was an amazing podcast from an amazing podcast company. If you enjoyed the show, please click the like and subscribe buttons and share it with your friends. It goes a long way in helping us produce more amazing content.